Welcome back, Bruins fans. Today I get the absolute pleasure of talking about a big victory on the road against a competitive Vegas Golden Knights team. Now, the Knights have been struggling more recently in 2022 compared to their previous 4 years as an organization. But this is a fantastic opportunity for Boston to strike while the iron's hot, keep rolling on this road trip, and get a fantastic result, which they definitely did. Um, Lots of great contributions up and down the lineup. We got activations from everybody this game, and it was great to see. One little housekeeping note I want to touch on. The defensive pairing switched up a little bit. The second defensive pairing, Riley and McAvoy were together on the first pairing, and Grizzlick and Carlo were together on the second. Carlo and Grizz looked really well together. Looked really good together, sorry. Um, I have a lot of faith that we're not going to concede a lot of goals when those two are out there. However, what it does to the other four defensemen, being Clifton Forbert and McAvoy Riley, remains to be seen. One other thing for housekeeping, the national broadcast for the Vegas Golden Knights actually had three broadcasters, Chris Chelios, Mark Messier, and someone else I'm forgetting. Sorry. I thought they did really good. I don't hate three commentators. There's just a little bit of synergy they can build over time, where sometimes one of them would speak at the same time as the other, and it would be the play-by-play person just spouting something quickly about what was happening on the ice, while the other person was trying to make a more broad point about the game itself or breaking down what was happening on the ice. When that happens, and I'm going to use Mark Messier or Chris Chelios as an example of someone breaking it down and the play-by-play person just jumping in. When Chelios or Messier are in the middle of saying something and the play-by-play person jumps in just to say something really fast, like, "Oh, beautiful shot on net by what's it called?" It's totally okay that Messier and Chelios just pick right back up with what they were saying right after the play-by-play person says what he has to say. There were a couple times when the play-by-play commentator would jump in, and then Messier or Chelios would just end their point when they were in the middle of saying something very valuable that the listener was going to get something out of. So that's just going to come with time and experience with them, but I really did like and enjoy the three-person commentary. Let's jump into the game. We look at these two teams' records, and we should expect a intensely physical or an intensely competitive hockey game, where both these teams are searching for points late, moving into the back half of the season when it's crunch time is approaching. So the competitive game should be expected and was delivered. Boston were getting on the forecheck early. Again, they like to lead with that Carlo Frederick Smith line because it gives them energy early. And not only energy for this game, but points on the board is what they would find. Vegas were playing really high on Boston's defense in their own zone. Actually, in both ends of the zone, both in their defensive and offensive zone. The Vegas forwards are doing a great job of being really high and having good pressure on the Bruins D. It makes it harder for players like Riley, Grizzlick, or McAvoy to jump into the rush and get really engaged, have the time to quarterback a lot of the offensive zone pressure. It also takes away a lot of the outlets that the third line was defaulting to. That Frederick Coyle Smith line, they love to play it along the walls, and then when it's not along the walls, deep, they can get it back out to their defense still along the walls, who try and move it in the middle for them and get a shot on net. With it, they can crash into the middle for them. Nice Swayman stop early from down low chance. Um, and then Jake DeBrusk has a chance who tries to pass the puck a little bit too much. We're going to look at Jake's shot totals right now. He only put one shot on net in this game. I would need him to have more of a shooting first mentality on that top line. Because look at his line mates. Patrice Bergeron with six shots on net, and Marchand with another 6. So that line had 13 shots on goal. Jake DeBrusk was only accountable for one of them. I need him to have more of a shooter's mentality there. And he showed it at the start that he wasn't delivering it when he almost had a 1-on-0, and he went to do a pass to Marchand behind to try and set up like a free goal for Marchand. I really want Jake DeBrusk to rip that at net and try and force a rebound that him and Marchand can crash onto. And he was up close too. I don't know. A little too cute with it. But Jake DeBrusk would get slashed as he's trying to make that drop pass, so Boston would go on the power play. Vegas were doing a fantastic job of using their sticks to break up the seam passes, clogging up the zones and the lanes for passing. Great job by Vegas on this kill. The second line in transition get a Pasternak shot and a Huller rebound. Really nice save by Leonard and a back check takeaway by Hull to set up that play. The second line is so dangerous in transition. Every other team that plays against Hull and Pasternak especially, but Hull too in his own right, have to be super careful in the neutral zone because our second line will work like dogs to force a turnover because they see the opportunity to take it the other way and have a great shot on net or a great chance to score a goal. McAvoy gets clipped up high. It was close enough to the bench that in that instance, I'd be okay with him just coming off. He doesn't get the call that he's looking for, and so he tries to skate back into his own zone, and he's drifting a little bit because he's clearly just taking a stick to the head. It's one of those situations where first instinct, if you're not 100% okay, instead of hustling back into your own zone, hustle hard to the bench so someone else can hop over on the other side of the bench and get to the zone fast and do their job. Recognize the play is happening too. Coyle and Jake DeBrusk, I want to see more of a shot first mentality. And I would get it right after I wrote that comment. Boston would go up 1-0 as the third line would have a great 3-on-2 as Frederick would drop it to Smith, who rips it near post under Leonard's armpit. It was the second 3-on-2 in a couple minutes, right? The second line had one just a couple minutes before the third line gets one. So it's Vegas in their neutral zone not being secure enough with the puck, not getting it deep, not breaking out fast enough. Boston are able to force these turnovers or breakdowns in Vegas in the neutral zone and then come into Vegas' zone with numbers. Vegas was starting to press, though, in the last 4 minutes of the first period, and they were winning battles along the walls. Swayman had to be very sharp on Eichel redirect. Lots of pucks coming from weird areas throughout this whole entire game. Pucks coming from weird areas, suddenly right into danger ice in front of Swayman, and he's got to all of a sudden go from like zero or, passively ready to actively stopping a dangerous chance. He did really, really good in this game, though. Lots of pucks coming from weird areas to danger looks. Stevenson off the face-off to the point shot on the side. Again, more chances coming off face-offs, off the boards, pucks being thrown from behind the net. Swayman did a really good job of staying on his P's and Q's so far. That would do it for the first period. In the second, Riley would try to jump up past the blue line, and then Eichel almost connects on a cross-crease pass, punishing that on the opposite side. Vegas would take a power play as Holla took a tripping penalty 200 feet from his net as he loses an edge. And then Coop would have a near-miss seam cross-crease pass, and then Swayman would have a world-class save. It was beautiful stop. Highly recommend watching the replays on this game because it was a really competitive game back and forth, and Swayman stood on his head. Vegas did much better in the last minute, and with 14 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second period, they were now outshooting the Bruins 17-13. A big push from Vegas was coming, as pucks were still coming from dangerous ice into the dangerous areas a little bit too easy. We need to have more sticks in zones or preventing them along the wall from getting a look. Vegas forwards were doing a great job staying on top of the Bruins D, though, in both zones. Wouldn't be denied, though, as the Bruins go up 2-0, as Coyle peels out with his head up from the corner, finds Smith on the back door, and then the refs start to let them play as the two Knights get caught behind their own net. Maybe a trip let go, an offside change not called. Hall from Pasternak 2-on-1. Hall keeps and shoots and starts to show more of that shooting mentality I want to see from the rest of the team. Continue along with the refs letting them play. This would be for the rest of the game, basically. Very few penalties called here. Swayman would jump out to stop a Theodore shot from the top of the circle, as again, the puck coming from his own corner, diagonally across the ice. He's the only shooter, though, and Swayman does a great job of jumping out and getting square to it, seeing it all the way. Another really, really solid save. Boston need to keep skating at Vegas so they don't get smothered. Vegas, at times, were starting to pull the play back in the second period, and smother is the word I want to use. They were smothering the Bruins D. They were smothering them along the wall. Smother is a very, very powerful word because it can make the team that's getting smothered panic. And when they're panicking, they're going to stop moving their feet and start making mistakes. Very important that Boston didn't stop skating, didn't stop hustling, and fighting against the smother. Even if they are getting overwhelmed at the time, you got to keep pushing against that blanket, that wet blanket that's trying to come over you. huge shot from the top inside circle as the puck comes from behind Boston's net again through heavy traffic. I don't know how Swayman stopped it, but he did. Eichel would then even cut the lead in half, 2 minutes left in the second period, as there was an errant pass by the Bruins in the offensive zone to the point. Eichel would lose control of his stick handle as he's coming in on the breakaway, but it would just be one of those ones that fakes out the goalie and slides under Swayman. Happened really fast, off a Bruins mistake. I don't blame that one on Swayman at all. Every goalie is allowed at least one mistake throughout a game. 2 or less, you're giving your chance a big time chance to win the game in 2022. 2 or less is really good. 3 or more, we're starting to have questions. First line had their best shift of the night in response to the Eichel goal, though, and I think that was really, really positive for the Bruins. With less than 2 minutes left in the period, we just conceded a goal. We have to answer with some momentum so that we're not completely overwhelmed going into this break, and we're pushing back against Vegas, so they're not building more and more momentum against us. So Marchand would have a power drive to the net, and it's going to be a great game of hockey in the third is the last thing I wrote, as the shots were 26-25 for the Bruins. 2-1 hockey game going into the third. Like I said, two really competitive teams expecting a really, really great game of hockey in the third. Dadonov in front from below the red line would be denied. Carrier would wheel and hit the crossbar. But that was within the first 3 minutes of the third period. Vegas came out very, very hot in this third period. And then they would go on the power play as Nosek would take a tripping call in front of his own net. One of the most okay penalties you're ever going to see taken, because you're scrambling in your own zone, you're trying to stop the play, and you're trying to prevent them from banging home an empty net goal. Nosek going to the triple, so Eichel would take a one-time dot shot, but then after that dot shot from Eichel, like a Pastrnak-esque one-timer, the Bruins do a much better job of getting their shape and controlling the kill. Bergeron would then skate to create a chance for Marchand on backhand, who's robbed by Leonard's leg. Gets some air on it, but Leonard's leg is just high enough off the ice to get a piece of it and knock it away. And then the second chance hits the side of the net, couldn't quite go. Haula shoots it through the crease with an empty net, so more of Haula's bad puck luck, lack of clinical finishing around the net, but he's surrounded by Pastrnak and Hull, so that line has lots of clinical finishing on it. Second line in transition again, a great Boston push to answer. And they would get rewarded as the Bruins go up 3-1, as Pastrnak would take a puck from Frederick in all alone, get sprung for a little breakaway on a 2-on-1, and make no mistake. Vegas mistakes would continue to mount up, as they would start making more and more errors in the neutral zone. It was happening in the first and second, and then started to ramp up in the third. Haula would have a beautiful pass to Frederick in the 2-on-1 that Pastrnak shot, and Frederick got a rebound, looked to crash in on the rebound for, but Pastrnak had already slipped it through Leonard, and it was in the back of the net. Commentator said that Vegas D were having a hard time getting activated. I agree with that sentiment. I also thought that Boston was starting to mirror more of Vegas's forechecking game, the deep, intense forecheck, because it makes teams that were having easier breakouts earlier in the game, that were staying in the neutral zone, now they're even struggling to break it out of their own zone. Really good press by Boston to keep Vegas on the back foot. If they can't even get into the neutral zone, how are they going to get a scoring chance on Swayman? Boston content to keep playing strong 200-foot hockey, which is exactly what you want to see when you're up 2 goals late, midway through the third period. With 5 minutes left in the third, as the Bruins continue to play their 200-foot game and wear out this clock, Craig Smith would find his hat-trick goal as he's looking for the pass. He is on Pastrnak's spot, and he's looking for the pass. He's hungry for that shot. That's exactly the type of play I want to see him keep pushing towards. Not just when he's got 2 goals. Shoot the puck at the net mentality. Love it. Because you have players like Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick, who are dogs, who love chasing down pucks, love crashing nets, love causing chaos, and aren't afraid to hold on to it themselves. Once they have it, they're not going to panic with it. So he looks for the pass on the dot. Leonard and Whitecloud have a little bit of contact, and Leonard can't quite get to his post. Craig Smith beats him on that post. Marchessault would make it 4-2, with Carrier in front from outside the middle of the circle. Just a really nice shot. Boston were watching a little, but start moving feet after this goal. Bergeron can't set up Jake DeBrusk, but they'd get their fifth goal as Pastrnak finds the empty net. A really good neutral zone and attack high on their defense right from the jump. The Golden Knights pulled their goalie with about 5 minutes left in the game, down 3 goals, able to score 1 goal, but then Pastrnak pulls it back at the empty net to keep the 3-goal lead. This was a big win on the road trip, and a big sign that depth scoring is still alive on this team, hopefully. We need it every night, though. That's a big problem. There are players up and down this lineup who could put pucks in the back of the net. We just need to see them do it more consistently. I'll point at these two players right here, Jake DeBrusk and Nick Foligno. Foligno had one of his best games against Anaheim. It wasn't terrible against Vegas, but there were times when he was maybe a little bit outskated or a little bit outclassed. Jake DeBrusk, he's up against a really, really strong and powerful and big Vegas first unit. There were times when he got smothered out of this game a little bit, playing against some really big bodies. Other than that, though, this was a really, really good game to build off of. Marchand was getting engaged in the game, even if there were times when he was in a lull. He's still coming back from that suspension, getting his game on top, and will be producing points in no time. Fourth line, I didn't think Froden did a bad job at all. I just like Curtis Lazar. I just have a bias towards Curtis Lazar. That's all I think I want to talk about for housekeeping on this team, on this game. Eichel's obviously a scary player. March's a scary player. When they get Mark Stone back, this team can go to a whole nother dimension, a whole nother level, and that's going to be incredibly scary for teams like Colorado in the playoffs. Because if you remember last year's playoffs, Vegas solved Colorado 5-on-5. It took them a couple games, but by game 5 or 6, they had Colorado completely solved in 5-on-5 hockey. That should be very worrying, considering they just picked up another superstar and have Mark Stone coming back probably for the playoffs. This could be, definitely from the West, a Stanley Cup preview. Maybe not from the East, no one has this on their radar yet, but Boston are going to be an incredibly difficult team to play against, a la the New York Islanders of last year. And if you play really solid defensive hockey, and your goaltending is standing on its absolute head for you night in and night out, averaging like a 940 to a 960 save percentage, you could do some really scary things in the playoffs. Keep building towards this playoff push, boys. This third line is getting rewarded. Stick to the script. Eric Holla could have easily had a 3-point night on that cross-crease empty net goal. Keep sticking to the plan. It's working. We'll see what the deadline brings us with players like Jake DeBrusk still wanting out. Maybe a team would be interested in Nick Foligno's leadership. Who knows? He's got a no-movement clause, I think, anyways, so he'd have to waive it or whatever, 3.8. That's all I want to talk about. I'm not getting into the contract stuff too much. I'm more willing to take it as it comes. Let the GM or the management staff worry about the roster, or like the personnel. I'll worry about getting the most out of the personnel. Okay, that's all from me. Let's go to the next one. What's our next game? We're going to finish out this West Coast road trip at Columbus. Let's get it. I'll be covering that one too, obviously. Check you in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe.